Hi, Tammy. How are you? Always a pleasure to see you.
Hey Sid, I'm doing great, thanks. How are you doing?
Hot as hell.
Yeah, not as hot as the sun-scorched metropolis that I live in, but yeah, I'm not trading with you. I'm enjoying the cooler weather here, which doesn't last very long,
Mhm.
so you can
Yeah,
keep your heat.
yeah. I think after this, from the heat of Durban, I think you probably get to autumn if I'm correct, because I think the winters only happen in June or July. If I'm, yeah,
Yeah.
that's my assumption
So,
though.
well, here the winter is it starts getting cold from well, cooler from late November. So it's November, December, January, February, and then it's starts steaming up again. So in the day it's still fairly okay, but at night you need like a little bit of a hoodie because it does get a bit nippy.
Okay. All right. Awesome. As usual, I'm always honored to have you on, especially on today's interesting topic on writing, publishing, and your lessons learned on that. So, to get the ball rolling, what made you decide it was the right time to publish your book, and how did you know you were ready?
So there's, I would say, there's no real right time. But my very first book, what I used to do, it's very cathartic to actually journal, to write down your thoughts, your feelings, and remember when it's between you and that book. So everything you can pour your heart out into a book, into writing, and when I got to the end of like a book like that with all the writing in there, I realized that, hey, I could actually put this into a novel, into a
Mm,
memoir, to educate other people that have probably going through the similar thing, or will go through the similar thing, and maybe it's just an eye opener to other, especially with the Indian community, because my
yeah.
first book is called Sayors, which means freedom in Irish. And it's a brutally honest memoir of how I chose divorce over murder and suicide. And a lot of people, sometimes you may think, really? You hear, I know my mother used to ban us from reading the Post in Durban because it had all these bizarre stories of, women doing psychotic, mind-numbing things to exes and the like. But when you're in that situation, then you understand why those women actually go through those things. If somebody's reading it out of the blue, they think, like, really, how can somebody even think about those things? But when you're in a situation where you actually brought down to your knees, these things go through your mind. So my book, I thought it would educate people, educate females to, think about things, educate themselves. There's so much out there on the internet. There's so much of help out there on the internet, and by reading and educating yourself, you can actually get through things so much quicker, and you can actually go through your healing process so much quicker. So when it comes to writing itself, you can think about anything. If you get poetic writing, if you love poetry, don't laugh at it and think, oh, it's not going to be
Mm.
a seller, or it's not going to be taken up in the market. Just do it. Just try it. You never know how it might take off. So, as I said, there's no real time, there's no real any something to back you up to say, okay, you need to do it now. Just get going. If you love writing, if you want to be an author, be a published author, go ahead and give it a shot.
Awesome. All right. I have a comment question here for you already, which is kind of based
Mhm.
on your answer in a way. From Jitin Rishika. Hi, Tammy. When did you decide that you wanted to put your life story into a book? Did you find peace and relief after the publishing of the book? Wishing you well in your journey.
Thank you, Jason Reshika. I appreciate the question. So, I decided to, as I said, I used to write down every time I went through an incident. I used to write it down because it's quite cathartic to write, and so a lot of people, when they found out that I was going through a divorce, and I always maintained my composure. You would never see me without lipstick or without my stilettos. I was in corporate at the time, and I would always be dressed. Nobody knew that I was going through something like this. When I did go through the divorce, and people were saying, really, you don't show it, and then I thought,
Yeah.
how do divorced people look,
Mm,
and when you actually look at some people that have going through it, that have going through troubled marriages, or not even marriages, troubled relationships, be it with parents, be it with siblings, they actually look like, mind my French, but they look like dog's breakfast. Some people are like sleeping all day and going through the motions, but I chose not to do that.
mm,
And when people approached me and said, can I speak to you, help me out, then I thought it's an ideal time to actually get my book out there, to educate people and to let people know that they're not alone.
mm,
And my book is there to educate people, and not only to go through that divorce. With my story, it's I didn't divorce to get married or to get
mm,
remarried. I never thought that I would get remarried, but it's also to tell you that yes, there is life after divorce. Don't think that you're out in the dredges, you're out in the trenches, and it's doom and gloom. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom. Pick yourself up, and the quicker that you pick yourself up, dust yourself off. And with me, I always kept my composure because I had two sets of eyes looking at me all the time, which were my kids. I couldn't show them
mm.
mom's a failure. I always
Yeah.
showed them that you stand up, be stick to your decision no matter what you do. Stick to your decision, dust yourself off, and move on. And it's to also show people that they can be a happily ever after. There can be
Mm.
life after a divorce. So that was my main reason to get the book out there.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to that philosophy of mind over matter and embracing a positive attitude.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, there were times, I'm human. There were
Of
times
course.
that I would feel like, I don't want to even get up in the morning. But having my kids as not my excuse, but my reason,
Mm,
made me get up in the morning, made me continue going to work. And trust me, there was times that I went like 2 days, 3 days without sleep. And thanks to makeup, it covered up
yes.
the dark patches and the droopy eyes and the like. So you can get away with a lot of things. But I would
Oh,
honestly, if somebody's going through something like this, I would honestly say seek advice, speak to somebody, don't be alone.
true. What are the key differences between self-publishing and traditional publishing based on your experience?
So, self-publishing is basically, if you've done it. I've done the traditional route of publishing, and sometimes I would say, do your homework properly. Check out
Mm,
the publisher. Check out where they publish the books, what platforms they use, what is your kickback. I had my fingers burnt with the first one where the publisher was getting it was like a 70-30 split, but not
wow.
realizing they were getting the 70%, yet it was my
Oh,
hard work put into the book.
mm,
So do your homework properly. Find out if you want your books going into the big booksellers, like in South Africa, there's the exclusive books and the like. There's a lot of
yeah.
work that happens behind the scenes where you have to physically go to five of the booksellers, five different branches, and make contact with them for them to actually stock your book. There's also the if you're getting your book done by a publisher, they register it with the local library, and you get an ISBN number, which is your international standard book number that is recognized throughout the world. So these are the things, and that's actually free. You can do that on your own. You can download it from a website, and you can load your book and get that done. Whereas if you're going with the publisher, they would charge you a minimal fee, obviously with an admin fee attached to that. You can, with the self-publishing, you can do it totally on your own. My second book, I did self-publish, and you can put it onto various platforms like Amazon. My second book is on madeinDurban.co.za. So
Oh,
there's different platforms. I went the two routes, and my third book was obviously a free e-copy, so there didn't have to be any. I did the editing, I did everything with that, and that was a free book. The current one, I have chosen to go with a publisher because she offers the illustration services, and this is a kiddies book series. So there's a lot of illustrations where she's done it, and she came highly recommended, and she's quite reasonably priced as well. So I am partnering with her on going forward with the children's book series. So there are pros and cons to both, but if you want, and remember, I want to say this tongue to cheek, is when you write your book and you publish it, don't think you like the J.K. Rowlings of the world and you're going to sell 1 million copies. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of marketing. There's a lot of initial costs that people don't realize how much of cost goes into editing, into publishing, into the book cover designing, the illustrations. If there's like a kiddies book series, there's every page there's illustrations, whereas my first book there was no illustrations. It's a story. So there's a lot of, and your margins, your layout, everything has to have. You got to have your format according. You need to know what size your book is going to be. You need to check your number of pages. They call it the bleeds. You got to know all these things. So there's a lot that you've got to research if you're doing it on your own publishing, and even when you're doing it through a publisher, know what their terms and conditions are, how they lay it out, your font style, how you want it to look, how you want the end product to look. You need to know these things. Look at a few books. If you're working with a publisher in mind, look at a few books that they have published, physical books. Go into a bookstore, look at the physical books and say, I like this of that book and I like that. Pick and choose and put everything together and know what you want when you do approach them. The other thing with a reputable publisher, a lot of them cut off their services around about August because they get so flooded with people wanting to publish their books. You need to know their timelines as well. If you are working on a timeline, say you want to launch it for Christmas or you want to launch it for the new year, you need to check. A lot of the big publishing houses stop taking any new recruits by August, I think July, August. So check those things out as well.
okay. Just want to clarify, if you're doing a by self-publishing, is it cheaper or are they similar pricing in both situations?
It's much cheaper if you
Okay.
have somebody to do your editing for you, be it somebody who's done it before. And sometimes you have friends that are quite articulate in the English language, in grammar and layout, etc. You can get away with it being a freebie, kind of thing. I had my book edited by 3 different people. I had the
Wow.
executive at the company. I had a life coach who's a friend, and the publishing house. So I had it edited by 3 different people. And at obviously the publishing house did cost me, but my friends obviously didn't charge me anything. But in turn, they got a
Okay.
copy of the book.
Okay. Cool. What were the biggest challenges you faced during the publishing process, editing, design, or distribution?
So I would say the publishing went smoothly, but the distribution is quite a touchy part because, as I mentioned to you, you under the impression that it's going to be out there and you're going to sell 1 million books. but
Oh,
it's not the case. There's a lot of marketing that you've got to do, and if the publisher offers book launches, if there's book launch, like
mhm.
you get your CNAs in South Africa, you get the exclusive books. If they
Mm.
have these sort of events, piggyback on those events, put it out there, have your contact the local newspapers. I've had like 3 different newspapers in South Africa that contacted me, where I put it out there, and there was a few book sales through that. The also word of mouth, like in South Africa, I did a lot of women's events, like Women's Day. I contacted, there was the senior citizens group where I did like lucky draws. And then when people, when you do the lucky draw and they say, oh, I've got this, I read this book and it's so fascinating, and I know your daughter's going through a divorce, she would do well. So it's that word of mouth that would prompt the sales. So that's kind of what you need to do. Your marketing is very, very important.
Yeah, that kind of brings you on to my next question. How important is personal branding and marketing once a book is published?
It is extremely important. As I mentioned, don't think that, okay, your book is published, you've got the hard copy and it's done and
Mm.
dusted and it's going to sell like, going to fly off the shelf. That does not happen. I'm talking from experience. And sad to say that, I know of celebrities that have released books, and your own circle of friends and family would go and spend 3, 4, 500 rand on buying a celebrity's book, but when it comes to you, they'd expect the book for free. It's happened. I'm talking from experience.
Yeah.
And I've learned with the second and the third book was a free ebook, but with the second book, I've learned my lessons, and there was no freebies. There's I drew the line, and if you want the book, it's available on Amazon. It's available on madeindurban.co.za, and you can get it there. The second book is a 356-page book. It's quite a thick book, so
Wow.
carrying the book around, it's a cookbook, so carrying the book around is
Oh,
is quite heavy. So when I advertise, I refer people to the website so they can get
mm,
it off the website. And with the current books as well, your marketing is very, very important. Try and join groups, authors groups. If they have, I know in Durban they have, I think it's called Books in the Park, where
oh,
on a first Sunday of the month, I I'm forgive me if I'm wrong. I think it's Mitchell Park. I know they have a
oh, yeah.
gazebo in the middle. So I think
Mm.
it's Mitchell Park, where they have Sunday, the book club, and they also have exchange books. So if you have a book that you want to exchange for another book, you can do that and contact the organizers and set up a table there where you can do a book signing. Excuse me, you can do marketing of your book on your own.
Okay. I was just thinking, you mentioned about e-copy, but if you ever thought of like having the digital book along with your hardcover book, I think it's cheaper doing the digital book. At least you would probably be able to
You
accommodate
can.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so there's the digital, there's the audio version, and obviously the
Okay.
soft copy. But
Okay.
there's variations to it. Like here
Hmm.
in Dubai, I wanted to do the kiddies book series as KDP, so it's the Kindle friendly for the
Hmm.
kids. But there's restrictions here.
Oh,
Certain schools as well do not allow the digital copy, the digital format of the book. So and a lot of the countries, if like my first book is in 4 continents, but certain continents don't actually allow the Kindle friendly books. So you got to be cognizant of that. As I said, there's a lot of research that needs to be done. There's a lot of marketing. There's a lot of inquiries that you need to make as to contact other authors. Join if there's WhatsApp groups with other authors, if there's Facebook groups, join these groups, ask your questions, find out how people have done it, what have been their shortfalls, what have been their challenges. And these things actually help you out with your book. which is quite beneficial. It speeds up the process. So don't think that I'm writing this book. I don't want everybody to know that I've written the book, and you just want to
Mm.
come out and splash out. I would say no. Find out. There's so many people that can help you out, that can guide you along the path, the process. Even here, I belong to 2 WhatsApp groups with local authors, and they constantly giving information, like with the kiddies books, how you promote it. Like here in the UAE, I need to have a special license as an author to sell my book. So if
Oh,
I go into a school and I want to sell my book, it's a no-no. But what I can do is, or what they promote here is, because my book, it's a short story, so it's a quick read. I can
mm.
offer my service just to read the book to a certain group, age group of kids. But what I
Yeah.
can do is refer the link to the teachers to say, let the kids purchase the book online from Amazon. They can bring it to
Mhm.
school on that day, and I can sign it for them. That's what you can do. But in terms of physically selling the books, it's not allowed here unless you have a special permit.
Wow. What advice would you give first-time authors about avoiding common publishing mistakes?
So I would say, if you're a first-time author and you want to publish your book, know the thread of your book. The Like you would write a letter, like we were taught in school.
Mm.
Any essay would have a start, a body, and an ending. Know your target audience. Know who who you want to specifically target, age group, gender, and be it married, unmarried. Know those kind of things. Ask yourself questions. Interview yourself, like asking yourself, who's your book targeted at? What is your book about? Know your blurb. The blurb is the back of the book, which is generally your catch of your selling point. It needs to be catchy to know. Okay, somebody picks up this book and they read it and say, that is something that I need to read, or this is something that so and so would benefit from. And especially, like if you're buying a book for a friend or for as a gift, you would think, oh, this would be ideal for somebody going through a relationship issue. So your blurb at the back needs to be very catchy, needs to be very somebody that wants to grab the book and wants to read it, wants to read more of wants to know what the story is about. Also, your social media platforms, use that a lot, where you can put snippets from your book and say, this is something that I've been through, and or this is a blip, or a snippet from my book. You want to know more, here's the link. Buy the book, read the book. It would help you so much. There's so many groups out there. Know your target audience, know what the book is about. If somebody is speaking to you like an interview, ask these questions to yourself and write it down, because I've had the same thread when I was interviewed by the 3 different newspapers. It was the Post,
Oh,
it was the Sunday
daily,
Tribune, and
oh,
I
daily
think
news.
Rising Sun,
Oh,
or the Rising Sun, one of those
it's that.
two.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's a Chatsworth paper. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So those
Yeah.
people interviewed me. So I knew the thread of what was happening, and I answered those questions. And then you can just elaborate on each one. And then also have good copies, photos of the book that needs to get published into newspapers, that can be put on social media, etc.
Awesome. If you could go back to the beginning of your publishing journey, what would you do differently?
I would definitely use a different publisher at first. And I would do a lot more marketing. Marketing is very, very key.
Mm.
With the first one, unfortunately, the book is on Amazon, but she holds the publishing rights to it. Whereas with the new publisher that I'm using, and because I'm here in Dubai and she's back there in South Africa, she's given me full rights to. So I'm the owner of those book sales, everything, and I've got a track, and she gives me a dashboard of books sold, interest, likes, and so forth. And she also does marketing of the book to different platforms, to schools, etc.
Okay. That means you must have like a close to 80 to 100% percentage ratio of the profits, if I'm assuming that correctly.
Yes. So initially, because you pay her initially for the
Mhm.
publishing, so everything else is, but obviously you're using an international platform, so they would take a percentage, and then the balance comes to you. So the ebooks are much easier because it's
Yeah.
straightforward. It's obviously given to you in the PDF. But if, like, you're ordering from Amazon and you're wanting the hard copy book, then they would take off the printing, etc., and then you would get the balance.
Awesome. As usual, always a pleasure, and I'll catch you next week Thursday, 4:30 p.m.
Sure, great stuff. Always a pleasure, and love and light to all the listeners and the viewers. Take care.